Welcome back to the SIBP55 podcast. My name is Preston Sibley, and today I'm joined by Simeon Remedios. How are you doing today?
Thanks for having me, Preston. I'm doing well.
Good. Thank you for coming on. I want to jump in and just ask you, can you just give the viewers a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So I switched careers earlier in the last couple of years, and I'm now a teacher. And prior to that, I've been working on TV, film, movies, and animation.
So would the viewers at home know anything that you've worked on?
Yeah, I think you kind of have it on the screen there. You got the IMDb profile. Got some Endgame, Ant-Man, a lot of Star Wars stuff that I've been working on. And yeah.
Lots of kids' films as well and shows?
Yeah, a lot of kids' films. Worked on Barbie Life in the Dream House and Thomas the Tank Engine. So yeah, it's been great.
So what made you want to initially get into the movie industry?
I think what made me want to get into it was just the love of movies and animation specifically. So I started off with animation and did a couple of years in that, and kind of got my hands wet into some VFX. I liked it very much, and I said, okay, well, VFX is kind of cool because what it does, it takes animation and live action and puts that together into something completely extraordinary. It's like magic.
Yeah. Can you tell us what your worst and your best memory was working in the movie industry?
I think a lot of the things that's the worst memory is just the sheer long hours that we have to spend in the movie industry, right? I mean, you're looking at sometimes on a very time crunch factor, timeline. You're looking at anywhere between 70 to 90 hours. So that probably be the worst because you just miss a lot of things when you have to like sleep in the studio or have to go back and go home for just 4 hours and get a nap and then come back. So that's generally the worst thing about it. It also could be the most fun thing because then you just get to hang out with your friends a lot and work on some incredible films. And I think the best part of the movie industry, or this is kind of the nostalgia, going back and seeing your name show up in a big credit like Star Wars.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and did you experience that a lot, like sleeping in the studio, watch it like 90
Yeah,
hours?
absolutely. I mean, it's part of the job, and it's part of what takes place, especially considering that my job in working in the film industry was post production. So you kind of get the tail end of it. I think what people don't realize and need to take into account is if somebody else takes longer for their part to be finished, then you're getting that shot a little bit later to kind of complete, and then that means it's going to take you a longer time to finish. And in the end, if it's a crunch factor, then you're kind of like staying there to kind of finish it.
Yeah.
So
that was my next question. You kind of just answered a little bit, but what were some of the challenges that you faced while working?
Yeah, so I think one of the biggest challenges is just that in itself is having to constantly be mindful of your time and like how much you spend on getting that shot out of the door and what you need to kind of do to get it there and how quickly can you get it there. Having some of the tools readily available are helpful. A lot of the tools that we use, what people learn in school is not necessarily what will be available in the studio. For example, if you have, say, a tool to cut, paste, and copy, you could have 3 shortcuts to do that process, and it may take someone in school to learn to do a cut, copy, and paste, maybe 10 minutes. If we're doing that process over and over again, we generally call up a coder and say, hey, listen, we're doing this process over and over again. I need you to create a button that does all of this in 10 seconds. And that's something that's just not available to students and people who are learning. So that's something that you learn on the job. And something as simple as, say, if you're modeling something in animation, whether it be stairs or a trellis or fence post, normally you would take each fence post and then line it up. Or you might have a panel of fences. But in this scenario, if you're creating a lot of fences and if you're doing that, well, there's already a tool created for that purpose that has a very specific type of fence. So
Makes sense.
it's about clicking and just dragging, and it's done. And all these tools are only available to that specific studio for that specific purpose. So those are some of the biggest challenges, is learning what those tools are and finding the fastest way around.
So you were in the industry for quite a long time. You said, like, how long would you say?
I was in the industry probably like 8 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And did it, like, from when you first started to how it is now, like, did it evolve at all, or like much change? Is it easier?
A lot has changed, but a lot hasn't changed. I would say that the steps in creating a film have not changed, because you still have to go through the steps. In fact, I would say they've evolved by adding additional steps, because we want more checks and balances, and we want a better creative product at the end. The parts that have really evolved and changes the process in which we do things. So the process could mean a lot faster process. But then at the same time, when you have something that's a faster process, you also have the ability to now have more time to say, how could we make this better? So now the time gets still consumed by what's the next level. So that's kind of how film has really evolved.
Was it challenging? Because I'm sure you had to do this, not being able to tell others like what was coming out or what you worked on or something like that? Because I'm sure there were some rules that you had and regulations.
So I mean, everybody signs an NDA, but at the same time, I don't think it's going to. It's not that difficult for me personally. Holding secrets is something that is easy for me, but knowing an outcome of a Star Wars movie prior to that is something that definitely was like eye opening. Just knowing the ending and knowing all that information prior to it coming out has been really, really cool. But yeah, no, it's just never been a thought to, share that, because I think it protects the film, and it's kind of important because it doesn't ruin the outcome, especially when people want to go and watch something. So if you already know what's going to happen, it kind of defeats the purpose. Yeah.
Are there any upcoming films that you can tell us about?
Don't even include that as a question.
I know. I'm just kidding. So what are some of like I know you say getting your name in the credits is kind of like your best moment, but what are some of the like your favorite films that you've worked on that you're like really proud of?
I think a lot of films that people don't really know about. I don't even know if it's in the IMDb profile, but King Arthur, and if you can scroll up, you can probably may find it. I don't know if that's in the IMDb, but yeah, there it is. King Arthur, Legend of the Sword. That's kind of like really, really, really cool. And I found this to be one of the really, really cool films to work on, because it transcends some of the amazing pieces of history and just the sheer nature of the set direction and the work by this. And yeah, if you look at some of the writers, directors, and the actors in the film, they kind of don't get the credit that they deserve, I would say. I mean, this was a really, really awesome film, King Arthur, and working on that film was kind of a really, really cool highlight. The artistry involved in it and all of the different special effects were really, really impeccable.
So what made you decide to like want to get out of it and leave the industry?
So one of the things I tell my students is realistically think about what your lifestyle would want to be at the end of it all. I think if I had moved to LA and California, it might have been different, because a lot of those things are if I did the production kind of work, or maybe even a little bit of less type of high-end films, I could have had a more 8 to 5 role. And I think I was looking for that a lot, because I do a lot of I have a lot of hobbies personally, so it kind of impeded on that. And like I mentioned, the worst part of the industry is having to work the long hours. And I think if you want that sort of, if you have to kind of decide and see for yourself whether or not that kind of lifestyle suits who you are as a person and a long-term goal. For me, that really didn't suit anything, because I wanted to have a family and I wanted to have that balance. And maybe things have changed in the last 3 years that I've been out of it, but as of right at that moment in time, it did not.
Mm-hmm. And one of the biggest things on this podcast, and the whole goal of this podcast, before I forget, is to inspire our viewers to follow their dreams by demonstrating what my guests and myself are doing in life.
Right.
Can you give them a piece of advice that you would say on following a dream or wanting to start like a passion or something, or even someone who wants to get into the film industry?
Yeah, I think, if I really was to say, what a dream would be, dreams are dreams. And sometimes I'm into music a lot more than I'm into film and TV. Music is my passion in my life, and I'm living my dream out doing music in a different way. So it doesn't look like it's full time because it's a passion of mine. And I think if something is your passion and you're able to find it in a job that fuels it, then I think that's a great way to go. I know a friend of mine actually started up a studio, and he does filmmaking. He has his own company, and he just worked on a shot for Marvel.
Really?
And or is it DC? Yeah, one of the two. Mm-hmm. And he has his own film company. He does weddings. He does all of that. But Marvel or DC approached him to do something, and it's on his Instagram now. I don't know if he wants me to share the name of it, but he's doing really well, and he's kind of doing his passion and his love for filmmaking in that way. But that's his entire life. And I think if you find that kind of job and that passion, I think go for it, because then it kind of fulfills you, and then it kind of allows you to grow in the same way. Mm-hmm. So I think part of the reason I also left was I looked at it as a job more than I looked at it as like such a huge passion for film.
Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, that is all the time that we have today, but his IMDb will be linked in the description. And thank you all for watching, and thank you, Simeon, for coming on today's episode.
Thanks for having me,
Preston.
talking to you.
Yeah. Take care, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Goodbye.